Welcome to the Unheard Cries of a Mother, the podcast where we dive into raw, unfiltered stories of motherhood, the joys, the struggles, the sacrifices, and the triumphs. Here, we amplify the voices that are too often unheard, shining a light on an incredible strength, the resilience, love that mothers bring to the world. I'm Sabrina Ben Salmi, your host, and I invite you to join us in an untouched story of Tamile. Tamile, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I can't.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's an honor to have you here, sweetie. It really is. It's so fascinating to actually be able to sit down and just get to know you in a deeper way. You know, people will know that I've known you for years, but we're going to get right into it. And I'm going to go straight to the first question. So, the first question that I have for you is, can you share a pivotal moment in your motherhood journey that shaped you into who you are today?
Okay, so I'm a mother of three. I won't say young children, they're in their 20s now. The youngest is 16, finishing up for getting ready to do her GCSEs. I think with me personally, a lot of people don't know this, but prior to having my three children, I had also lost three children. So the first, obviously, first mother, excited, gonna have your baby, and I was just gone 6 months, and they found something wrong with the baby, which was a polycystic kidneys. I kept on going back and forth for appointments, and I was like, no, there's so much going on. I know, like, when it comes to medicine now, there's so much, there must be something. However, obviously, I went back and forth with friends and family so they could also ask the questions that I might be forgetting. And obviously, when we started seeing the scans and everything, you could see all the cysts and everything, yeah, within the baby. So I knew there wasn't really anything that could be done. So obviously, I'm at 6.5 months, so I had to give birth. So doing that broke me because I'm just like I'm almost at the end. I'm almost there to meet my child, and then something like this happens. But I can say it now, but everything happens for a reason. Although I could never say that how many years ago. The second one, it was basically the same situation. However, I managed to find out earlier because I got a test done. So they done, I think, I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one when they put the needle through your stomach when you're pregnant. Same thing. Third one, I think it just got to the point where I was just like, I just wanted a baby now. Although that might just sound like, well, why are you trying to force to have a baby? I think the losing of the first one when I was just almost there, the second one was like just over three months. And then this one, I think it was just 3 months when they done the test again. And I was just like, well, obviously I'm not meant to have a baby. Then obviously about a year or so later, I got pregnant with my son. And I said, you know what, God, I'm going to put it in your hands. I'm not even going to get a test done to see if there's anything wrong with the baby. I said, I'm putting it in your hands and I'll deal with whatever's going to come along the journey. And then I had my son, my firstborn, and everything was fine with him. And then after that, I went on to have another two children. Everything was fine with them. So I think that strength of me going forth and making sure I keep myself grounded, my faith and everything, I think that helped strengthen me because a lot of people would have broke from the first. And I would say it did break me, but then I was just like, no, I can't leave myself broken. I have to keep on going forward and I have to keep on pushing because at the end of the day, you've got friends and family that can help you up, but you need to put in the work for yourself. So I think that losing my firstborn made me make sure that what's the word? I can't think of the word, but made sure I've done the best for my children now. Although, don't get it wrong, they're always like, oh, you're always going on and that. So I want to make sure that they have the best of the best in terms of don't just think of it as, For instance, like I'm always traveling and I'm always saying to the children, make sure you travel. Don't think that just being in the UK is the only place. You need to learn different cultures, different values, different meanings to life. So even my second child now, she travels, like she goes to little European places or whatnot. But I said, but that's where it starts. You start little and you start venturing out big. So I think it's just giving that insight to my children to let them know that there's more to life. Like no matter what may break you at that specific time, there's always a bigger ending journey. So yeah.
Listening to what you shared, I had no idea you were going to go that deep at the start. And I just want to salute you as a mother. What you've shared is so touching. You know, it takes a mother to understand exactly what I'm talking about. For you to share a pivotal moment in your life that mothers can relate to, not the fact that they've had to loss, but to know that when you carry a child, there's a story behind the story. People see your
Mm.
3 children, but they don't see the 3 that you lost.
Yeah.
That's something that's always sat in my heart. Like I always just commend you for having the strength, the perseverance, the courage to keep going, because one would have broke someone.
Mm.
I don't always bring it up because I think there is a sensitivity around it, and I'm really proud of you to hear you speak on it the way you have. And we haven't spoken about this for a while, but to hear you phrase it in the way you do, like you can see, you can understand it now, but at the time you couldn't. You've gone through
Yeah.
the process of healing, and it takes so much courage and strength. And I know that there's going to be someone that's going to shift as a result of hearing that, because we're one step ahead of someone else that we're going to help. Someone else is going to
Yeah.
be in a similar shoe. But I love, you've never told me that when you actually were pregnant with your son, that you just left it to God. That's interesting.
Yeah, I did. I put my hands together and I was just like, Heavenly Father, I'm putting it in your hands. I said, I'm putting it in your hands. I said, I feel like there's gonna be nothing wrong with my child.
Mm,
And I said, but whatever you decide, you know what I can handle. So I'm putting it in your hands. So
that's
yeah.
beautiful.
And now it's a pain in the neck.
You know what? I knew you were going to make me laugh. Stop it. It is like at that moment when they're being born, you just say like, "Are they okay?" All the pain has gone
Yeah.
because your focus is them. But as they get older, that's when they really come for you. Given birth to your match, each child will reveal something to you. But we love
Exactly.
all that.
Exactly.
I need
Oh,
to keep
yeah.
a straight face to be able to go through. I love I love that. And there's such a sacred message in that. So thank you. I really want to thank you for sharing that. So the second
Oh.
question that I have is, sorry, did you have anything else you wanted to
No, 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 that's fine.
add? The next question that I have is, what's one part of your story that you feel has gone unheard and unacknowledged?
Um, I think the part where I felt broken, and I think with me, everyone sees me as I'm very outgoing, very confident, and very strong. When things happen, people always come to me, oh, T, oh, I need some advice, or T, and I'll give it. I don't ever throw it back in people's face. I'll give it because that's just how I am. But I think sometimes I don't get that from people. Whereas, like, although you see me as this strong figure, I need someone to come and say, how are you? What's going on with you? And when I had my second daughter, oh sorry, my second, yeah, there was a time when I felt like I knew that something wasn't right in terms of I feel like I had a bit of depression. But it didn't stay long. I feel like it was there just for a couple of weeks, but I felt it myself. I remember one time, my dad, my father of my kids, he took them out and I remember this, I was living in my first flat. I sat on the edge of the bed and I just cried, cried, cried. And I was just like, I just feel so depressed. Like, I've got my children, I've got my house, but why do I feel like this? And then he called to say, oh, they were on their way back. And I just like went in the bathroom, washed up, fixed up myself. And I just thought, I don't want anyone else to see that. But I want someone to acknowledge that in terms of like, something's not right with T. Like, she's normally a bit more bubbly or she just seems a bit off, but no one could see that. But when it comes to certain people or whatnot, I can say, yeah, something's off, but they don't seem to see that because they just always think, yeah, she's strong, she's going on. And I think that is something that has gone unheard with me. Like people not really seeing when I need that support.
You know, that's deep what you've shared. And I think as women, as mothers, you know, I've said this to you 1,000 times, and I say it all the time when I speak to people. With women, there's such a thing as you're everything to everyone, but who
Mm,
are you to yourself? But more importantly, what you've said is that you're there to support everyone, but who comes and supports you? And I think
yeah.
it's so important. And we have what's called the erosion. You know, as the water hits the cliffs, we don't see it like
Mm,
chunks doesn't fall away like straight away.
yeah. Yeah.
It's over time. It's so subtle, and that's the danger. Is that over time we start to break apart. Over time, parts of us is missing. Over time, we're searching for those parts, and you know we're just in a dark space, and we just want someone to reach in and pull us out. So, you know, I really thank you for sharing that. And I really know that our viewers and listeners can grow from that. Because as mothers, as we share our story, we give other people permission to share theirs. But more
Yeah.
importantly, we let other mums know that they're not alone. Because sometimes when we're experiencing things, it can feel like, oh, this is only happening to me. And you know,
Mm,
I can relate to what you're saying as a mother. It's you know, you tidy up the face, you put the smile on. You've got to be mum now, right? Switch off.
yeah.
Kids are there. Someone needs a meal, and it's just so important to just have people to say, no, 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 none of that. Look at me, something's not right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really deep, really deep. But thank you for sharing that. The next point I want to go on to is, how has motherhood challenged your sense of identity?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Um, oh.
Yeah. So if I
um,
give you a little bit of help with this, so sometimes when we become mums, it's just like I'm the mum. Sometimes when we're married, it's like I'm married. But like, who am I? Like, how has it
hmm.
challenged your sense of identity? Have you been like, oh, you know, motherhood is all I ever wanted, so that is just who I am? Or have you ever had that kind of internal conflict of, I'm not just a mum? Sometimes people want to scream at the world and say, what do you mean just?
Mm,
Why do you use the word just? Like, I'm a mother and I'm multifaceted, and get to know me. There's a story behind who I am.
yeah. I think I have put my certain needs and my dreams and goals to the back. Whereas I've always had a vision of by the time I'm 50, I want to retire. Well, 50 in about 4 years.
Yeah, but you'll get the girl, you will.
Yeah, I believe I will. But I feel like I put my dreams to the back burner and I'm wanting to make sure that I push my children forward to make sure that they had their dreams and they got their goals. So in terms of that question, I just feel like yeah, I just put myself back. I put myself back. And I feel in a way I don't feel that like real resentment to that, oh, I could have done a lot more because I've made sure my children are in the right stepping stone. So when I'm passed away or when I've moved away, I know they're going to be fine because I've made sure they know what they want to do. I've always said to her, what do you want to do? I don't know. Okay, that's cool. What do you want to do? I'm not sure. All right, you should know by now. What do you want to do? So when they know what they want to do, right, let's help you get to that stage. Like I'm not saying uni and that is for everyone. I'm lucky my eldest two are in uni, but it's not for everyone. So I'm not going to say, oh, your child should be doing this and doing that. But don't see it as, oh, I've got a little part-time job, so I'm all right. No, make sure you have something stable, have a career to fall back. You could, like my eldest is doing architecture, but he kind of wants to change it, but he still wants to do within that kind of field, but kind of swap it. But I'm like, right, you've got your career, so that's fine. You can swap it and change it. My other daughter is in music. She started off performing in that. No, I don't want to do that anymore, mum. But now she's gone into music management, but she works in a nursery. So either way, she can kind of change her field, but you've got your career. The youngest, wants to be a chef, so we've been looking for culinary schools and colleges. So she's on her path, but yeah, so yeah, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
I love what you shared. You know, parts of this makes me think about our identity is somewhat dependent on the environment we are in as mums. Like if we have the luxury of a support system, we can collectively support our children. So then we can still hold on to who we are. But the reality is sometimes if we're the primary provider or caregiver for our children, we have to put aspects of ourselves on the back burner. Or I really like to say that as well as. I know you've always been as well as. I know part of you, some things you put on the back burner, but you still go for things, even if you can do it in drips here and there. And I think that's so important. But I love the notion that you shared with the listeners and viewers that it doesn't mean that everyone has to do this. It doesn't mean it's right for everyone, but this is what works for us as a family. And I think it's beautiful. Yeah. But I also like the aspect that you've shared with your young children that actually they've started on this pathway and I've taught them to have some sense of, you know, foundation, but from that foundation they can leap into different aspects. You know, they can diversify what they want to experience. And
yeah, exactly.
One day, you know, young people always changing their minds.
So yeah.
I love what you said, you know, go and see the world. But connecting it back to the answer that you gave to the first question, there's this premise of start with the why. Because of what you went through when your 3 children came healthy, the way you parent is so deep and intentional. And I really love that it comes through. The courage for yourself, the perseverance, the determination, but you're just saying live. Go out there and live. I've got you. I'm here for you. Just go and live. I'm your anchor. Go. You could always come back, but go as far and wide as you can. So it's beautiful. Is there something else you wanted to add?
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
No, I thought you could ask me something else for that question.
Beautiful. Thank you. So my next question is, can you describe a time when you felt completely unseen and unsupported as a mother? It's like you've got a week for this. You know, I could give a book.
I think when, oh God, you know, I've got so many answers, but I'm trying to think, where am I going to go with this one?
Follow your heart. Just see what needs to come up.
Oh. Can I come back to that question?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
All right. I'll this one. Come back to that one. So, the next one is, what has been the most rewarding aspect of motherhood for you?
I think seeing my children on their journey. I've instilled to them like what I think you should do and ways to go about doing things. And they've taken it upon, all right, yeah, we're taking what you've got to say, Mum, but this is how we really want to do it. And I'm like, that's fine, as long as you're doing it. So I think me seeing them and me knowing deep down in my heart, you know what, you lot are all right. I know you lot are going to be all right. And I think that just makes me proud. Although, like I said, they be doing my nuts. But but I know, like, deep down inside, I ain't got to worry about them because I know they've got the right values and that. So,
that's beautiful. Yeah, that is, I love that. That is a really nice answer. Beautiful. That's so lovely. What advice would you give to your younger self before becoming a mother?
This is a bit of a tricky one because I would, obviously I love my children. I wouldn't change them, but then I would say sometimes be careful of who you pick to be the father.
You behave yourself, T, please.
No, I'm not being horrible because sometimes. No, see, you're making me laugh now. No, sometimes you have to just be a bit mindful of who you date in terms of who's going to be around your children, who is going to be an influence, and who is going to show them the guidance that they need. Because you can't just like I said, I've got a son. Mothers can't always raise sons. They still need a male role model in their life. So I think it's just quite important to make sure you know who you're having children with.
Absolutely. You know, it's so funny. I'm laughing, but this is actually a very serious question. And I love the severity of your response. I'm just laughing because obviously we have our chats, but this I think is so important what you've shared. Who we choose to co-create with, who we choose to, you know, develop the next generation with is so important, because that will determine the level of support we have. You know, do you want your child to embody aspects of that partner? We've got to be honest, because if we're honest, maybe our choices would be different. And you know, we live and we learn. What we know now is not what we knew at the time. And if I knew then what I now know, you know, my choice would be different. And I imagine, you know, from listening, you know, people listening to this, they will maybe say, oh, actually, I made a great choice, or actually, it will be different. But we had our own growth to do. But I think it's such an important point that you've made, because when I do believe that, you know, from 0 to 7, that young man needs mum, and mum is everything. But past 7, they need to be with the men. They need to be with dad. They need to grow. You know, there are aspects that women can pour into young men, and women have done great jobs, you know, raising children. I get all of that. This is not a dig at mothers not doing those things, but I think they're coming from a place that, you know, practically, if you don't have support systems, who do you go to for that young man? I don't know what it is to be a man, so I can't tell him.
Yeah, exactly.
I can tell him of, you know, womanhood and how to relate to women, how to process emotions, but I don't know what it feels like a man, so I can't pretend to have that relatability experience with him, because I can't have that. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And that's, you know, the rites of passage of manhood doesn't come from a village of women, it comes from a village of men. And I really, you know, you see young men, you know, when they see, I notice with my own sons, when they're around men, and they just, there's this bond, there's this unspoken bond.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, eyes light up, they don't need you anymore, they just go, you're like, bye, yeah, go. You know, and they this, it's like they call out the spirit in them. So there's a sacred essence that takes place. So I totally get what you mean. Definitely get what you mean.
And I would say also to follow my dreams a bit more. Obviously left college and everything, started working, then obviously the children and everything. And I feel like I could have continued with my dream a bit more. I've always said, everyone that knows me knows that I've always wanted to go and live in America back in the day. Then I started traveling to America after I had my children, and I was like, oh, do you know what I mean? So I feel like what I'm telling my children in terms of traveling the world before they have their children, that's what I want them to experience. So I could have been doing that if I had, maybe if I was with the right person at that time, I would have had that bit more of a push and that more encouragement and more support, and we'd be like, yeah, well, let's go and take on the world together. Let's go and travel the world together. And I think that would have made me maybe start the businesses that I'm trying to start now. And yeah, I would have been in a different place.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That is beautiful. It's so true. You know, the lover wants to be loved. So, you know, you'll be there supporting the kids, but someone's just say, you know, let's go and do something for us. So I really like that.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, it's making me think actually. So next question I have for you is, how do you balance the emotional weight of being a mother with your personal dreams and aspirations? We were sort of just about to get into that, wasn't we?
Yeah. With me, I won't say I go with the flow, but I try and distinguish, right, this is what I want to do, this is where I'm going, and this is how I'm going to get to the end point. Although I'm not at that end point where I actually want to be, I know I'm doing little steps in order to get there. It's hard. I'm not going to say it's not hard. I feel like I've started a bit late, although I had my dreams when I had my children. Like we said before in the previous question, I put everything on the back burner. And then obviously motherhood was everything. But now, as I'm getting to that stage, I'm like, hang on a minute, I'm almost hitting the time when I said I wanted to retire. I'm putting everything in progress now. So, yes. But can you repeat the question again? Because I think I'm going off.
What's so funny, you are? Yes, I loved when you said that. So
how do I distinguish?
So basically, how do you balance the emotional weight, the emotional weight of motherhood with your personal dreams and aspirations?
Well, obviously, when it comes to the children, I've got to make sure I'm there for them as their support system. They might, like, for instance, like I said, my middle one, she's left the house and she lives in Leeds. So obviously I've got to try and be there for her, although she's very independent. So she's like, I'll call her up, she's like, yeah. Like she doesn't need mum, but obviously I will be there for her as much as she wants me to be there for her. Then I've got my son, he's just like, yeah. It's just like so laid back. And then the middle one's like, oh, can I go out? I'm like, no. So I've got all three personalities. I've got all three personalities, which I've got to try and balance between all of them and making sure that they're all right. And then when it comes to me, I don't know. As a mum, you just don't. There's no guidebook. You just go with the flow and you go on your journey, and you like, you know what? Now that can't happen. That can't happen. Yeah, that's gonna happen. So it's just basically you just know. It's just that's a hard question. You just know.
It is a challenging question, though it is.
Yeah.
And I guess the heart of the question is like, how do you kind of get support for your emotional support? Because in order to pour into our kids, it's like just that reminder of actually, where do I go to get recharged? Because just giving is kind of like similar to the questions we started off with, but in essence, you're giving emotionally to the kids, making sure that they're okay. Obviously, their different ages means they have different levels of needs, but then that emotional weight on you, how do you still ensure that you're chasing your dreams, which you are? You've answered the question, I would say, unless you had something else you wanted to add.
I guess it's sometimes you just talk to people, innit? You talk to people that you feel like are going through the same similar situations, or that may be going through something, and then you're like, once you start talking, you start connecting, and then you start, you know what? I'm going through that as well. Like, how are you dealing with that?
That's therapy. So to be honest, I think one of the things I love about being a woman, and again, it's not every woman or every man, but one of the things I really love in my personal journey is that therapy we get, just meeting a stranger in a supermarket, being out and about and just talking.
Yeah.
Kids like, do you know that person? Like, no. But as women, we just come together and just
and
you just walk away feeling like energized and just relieved, and it's just beautiful. School run conversations and all of that stuff. But do you feel that you're okay to go back to the previous question, or would you like to just
yeah, I can't remember what it was though, but yeah, that's fine.
That's so funny. Right, so I'm just going to go back. I've got it here, doesn't matter. So it says, can you describe a time when you felt completely unseen or unsupported as a mother?
I would say, going back when I said that I had when I had my second child, and I felt like there was no one there to support me in terms of when I felt like I was depressed. I didn't want to say anything to anybody because I just thought, I don't want. You hear people putting that label on as postnatal depression, and I didn't necessarily want that, but I wanted someone to be like, oh my gosh, is she all right? But I didn't want to physically tell anyone. I feel that time I definitely felt, I just didn't feel like there was anyone there. And another time was when I had with the third baby that I lost. Obviously, the father knew, but I didn't really tell anyone else. So sometimes those men, they'd be like, oh, don't worry, everything will be all right. When it's time, it's time. Okay, that's nice that you supported me and you're there, but I wanted a bit more support. And I think where I went for the previous two pregnancies, I didn't want to tell anyone again. I'm like, I don't want everyone to be feeling sorry for me. But if there was someone there I could just speak to, like how I'm feeling, I would have felt a bit more supportive. But obviously, as a man, they just like, oh, you'll be all right, everything will be cool. That's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted more support, but personally, I just didn't get it, and I just continued. So now that I'm at an age where I've got my children, and I feel more at ease. I can actually speak about it now and say, yeah, because a lot of people don't know that. They know about the first one, but they don't know about the second and third.
Very true. Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
Very true. And it's, you know, one of the things that comes out in your response is how women process. We don't just turn, and again, I'm not saying everybody because there's different people listening to this, but I'm just kind of giving an example in that often when women are going through struggles, challenges, feel like they're in a dark space, I know I've done it, we tend to calculate the outcome. Like, I don't want to tell you because that's going to be that. That's not what I need. So I'll just keep it to myself.
Yeah.
If I do this, this is going to happen. So a lot of the fear factor is actually, what environment are we in? And does that environment provide us with a safety net to feel that it's a safe space to share? That we're not constantly calculating, actually, if I do this, they're going to question my ability to be a mother, or, you know, my sanity. And it's so intrinsic in the female journey of motherhood that we're trained. Obviously, we have to protect our children. So it's an unconscious thing. We're not consciously doing this, but we're constantly playing out scenarios in our head and saying, actually, no. So I think it's a good point to just say to listeners is that check in with mums, you know, check in and just say, actually, if you've got any concerns in your mind, it's okay. Just share it with me. Like, tell me how I can help you. Because I think sometimes the fear and the shutdown comes from just that emotion of thinking, I don't want that scenario to play out. I can't do that. I can't cope with that right now.
And I think it's a bit of shame as well with some people. Some people think, oh, what if I tell them that, they're going to think I can't cope. But with me, I don't think it was shame. I just think it was just like, I just want, like, I was sitting there and I could feel like I'm screaming in my head. I'm like, can you not hear or see what I'm going through? But I'm like, no, you can't see it, so forget it. I'm not going to bother you.
But you also said it as well. Sometimes the fear of having someone feel sorry for you is enough to just keep you silent. Like, I don't want pity. I don't want that. I actually just want to share and just you be there for me. So really thank you for sharing that. That's really, really moving. The next question I have is, can you share a lesson that you've learned from your mother or a mother figure in your life that really shaped how you parent today?
I think from my mother, like, so many lessons, but you know, when you got on the spot, you start thinking, I think it's just being vigilant around your children. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, you hear all them stories when I was one of them children. Can I stay around my friend's house? Can I do this? Can I do that? And it was like, no. I mean, you're not going. You're not going.
You're going to behave. Right now, I want to love. Yeah.
I think it's just being that protector for your child. So I think it's just being, I wouldn't really say vigilant, but being consciously aware of your child's surroundings. So whenever you feel like something may be off or them maybe being put in harm's way, you've got that strength to guide them and you've got that knowledge and you are able to let them know, do you know what? Maybe this time you shouldn't go, or maybe let's just leave it for another day. Because I think with mothers, you have instincts where something ain't right. So I think that motherly instinct, I get that from my mum. Although she winds me up. No, she has taught me like certain things. And now I know it sounds bad, but I've had my daughter a few times. Oh, can I say that? No, you can't. And it's not only fault of hers, but it's how we've grown up. We've not learned them lessons, and you see and you hear things even on the news. You hear about the story about the child that's had a sleepover. Dad's given them like some tablets for all the kids to go to sleep. Now, for me, that instinct, you just know, like, sorry, you can even meet a parent or something, and you just think, I've had my daughter, oh, she's so lovely, but I've had to sometimes leave her, let her go to, not stay at people's house, but you have that lesson. Yeah, Mum, you was right, you know. That's fine. Learn a little bit by yourself, but it's all right. But now you may take that. So I think just getting that kind of motherly instincts, that's kind of helped me
I
along the way.
love the fact that you keep going back to the point of mother instinct, intuition. I love that. And, you know, I'm very conscious, like raising daughters, I'm training them constantly, listen to your intuition. I think it is an absolute godsend. I think for women, we have this sixth sense. You know, we'll dream about it. I always hear men laughing at, she had a dream I was cheating. Like women will know if something's happened.
We know.
Right? And I think there's something so important that you've shared in your message, that listen to your intuition. If you're a mother and you're second guessing, take heed. If it comes up, don't brush it away, don't second guess it, don't talk yourself out of it. There is a reason why your intuition fired off. And I think that's so important. And I think there's that thin line between, you know, sometimes you want to break out and do things slightly different. I grew up exactly the same. That's why it was hard for me to keep it in. It's like, you have a bed. Where you going? They knew things we didn't know. You know, from a child's perspective, it's fun. I get to, you know, hang out with my friends without no cut-off point.
Yeah.
I got that. That's fun. But there are some real serious things that can happen. And once you experience certain things, they can't be unexperienced. Some things, once they're seen, they can't be unseen. And the trauma that comes from this. So there's a real aspect of that. But yeah, thank you for that, for sharing that. It is a hard one to kind of put you on the spot, because there's a plethora of things that you can, you know, things you can kind of reach for. But I really love that you shared that, because the primary aspect of going back to the intuition of a mother, and I think that's so sacred. So thank you. Yeah. So how do you define success as a mother?
I would say that as a mother, we make mistakes. We are not a supernatural person. You're like, we will make mistakes, we will learn from those mistakes, and we will make sure we follow steps and we keep on building until we get to our destination of the righteousness. So I think for me, it's definitely, like I said, been through the past, working towards the future. And along that way, in that middle, I have definitely fallen a few times, brought myself back up, made mistakes. Children have told me where I've gone wrong for them, and that's absolutely fine. But it's making sure that I rectify those mistakes and put things in play to keep on going.
I love that. And you know, just giving yourself permission to make those mistakes. I'm always describing myself as a hot mess and mum. That's my motherhood journey. It's like, it's a hot mess. I don't miss school run. I absolutely was a hot mess in all of that matters. And I love the fact of just, you know, my imperfection is my perfection that I can offer. You know, I'm not going to get it right. And I love that, you know, speaking to the children, getting them to teach you how to parent, because you've got 3 children. You're not a mother of 3. You're a mother 3 times over. They're all different personalities. So you have to double up on who you are for each one of them. They have different needs from you.
Yeah.
It's really, thank you for sharing that. So if you can go back and rewrite any part of your motherhood journey, what would it be and why?
Oh my God.
You need to behave.
Wow. I know this might sound a bit selfish or a bit out of character, but I think after the loss of my first child, I think I would be like, not that I don't want no more kids, but I would focus more on just me. I think having lost the first child, I wanted to be a mother even more. I was like, no, this isn't fair. Why is this happening to me? And then obviously the other 2 happened. But I would be like, at number 1, just give it a break in terms of not trying to have a child or anything like that. Just making sure I focus on me, getting to where I need to, my own strength, my resilience, everything, just for me. And then focus on having another child. But then I think to myself, well, if I'd done that, those other 2 may have came, and then I might have lost those when I was later, and then I wouldn't have, and then I would have been like at an age where I'm definitely not having any more children. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like a 50-50 question. I just don't, I'm kind of like, I'm torn with the answer. But I think after the first one, I would have been like, Yeah, let me
But you know
just
what I do
leave
love
it.
about your answer is that healthy femininity in that taking care of me. Like, did I need to just leap back into it? Actually, it would have been good for me to have a breather. So instead of
Mm,
making it all about replacing the child I had lost,
yeah,
it's actually what did I really need then?
yeah,
What did I really need? And I guess it kind of stemmed into, support systems, conversations we have, just someone to sit us down and sometimes just say, I know that you're doing this, but is this what you really want? And sometimes
yeah,
just having those some people around to get us to those spaces, maybe we would have chosen differently, but you know, we never know. We'll never know. But you've got three beautiful children now. But I really love that aspect of just saying, actually, just I would have liked to just focus on me a bit. That's beautiful.
yeah,
And there's so much mum guilt. I don't know if you agree. There's so much. I notice when I'm speaking about aspects of me or speaking to mums, there's often so much guilt around saying what I need. And I
yeah.
really want us to get to a space like, yeah, that's what I like, and some women are like that, don't get me wrong. But we need to be in a space where, men will choose happily whether you like it or not. They know exactly what they want. But it's like we need to stop having that mum guilt. Like, it's okay to say this is what I needed for me. It doesn't mean you love someone any less. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. But unless we start inserting ourselves into our own life, who else is going to? It was
Mm,
41 years before I started to insert myself into my own life. So chances are we get a bit more life into us if we just choose ourselves more often.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I add something else? And also, I think when I had all my three children,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, got to a part where me and the children's dads we broke up,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want my children to grow up with like in a family without the mum and the dad, because I'm like, that's such a stereotypical single woman with kids, no dad around. So I wanted him around because same dad for the three. So I wanted him around. Um, so I think I forced it too much. Whereas there's times when I should have just let you go instead of trying to force you to be in the household, which weren't always the best of situations for not just me, because I can't just put myself in the picture, my children as well. So certain aspects, my children suffered in that way of being in a household with mum and dad who are not getting on, hearing the argument and everything. And I can put my hands up, and because I'm never going to say that, oh, I was an innocent party, I wasn't doing anything, because I absolutely was. Number one, I kept the relationship going when I knew it shouldn't have. And I also was part of the problem where we should have ended a long time ago. So I feel like that should have ended quite a long time ago. Still could be civil, but
Mm-hmm.
it should have ended a long time ago.
Do you know, it reminds me of a conversation I had with Lachey, my eldest. She said often women are making a choice in no choice. And that really got me thinking. I was like, what? Like, say it again. I said, say it again. Like, sometimes, like, the holding on or certain things we do isn't really necessarily what we would have chosen, but we actually didn't have no other choice. And it's more going
Mm,
back to your answers previously, is because of the partner we're with. If you're with a partner that's very emotionally intelligent, very present, very, not just my perception, they also understand perspective. You're dealing with a different person, so then you actually have a choice. But more often than not, women are placed
mm,
in no choice. They're making a choice within no choice. And all we're actually dealing with damage control. We're cleaning up a mess that we did not create. And I love the fact, and everything what I'm saying is contextual. I love the fact saying, I'm not perfect. There were certain things that I did, we contributed. But I mean that in some aspects of relationships, women are just dealing with damage control. Women are inheriting derelict institutes, and we're cleaning up mess that was laid way before we got here. And we're just trying to pick up the
mm,
pieces, healing from our own wounds, childhood wounds, our own experiences, going into a relationship, taking on sometimes someone that we're healing and fixing and hoping will someday change. And we're like, well, we can fix this person. But ultimately, we just want it to be loved.
Yeah.
And but I really love what you're saying. It just came to mind that how often are we in relation? Some people are blessed to have a healthy relationship, and you just decide that it's not working, so we'll just be amicable. We'll look after our kids. But sometimes the agonizing pain of motherhood, in this person being one way yesterday and overnight just turned into someone that's unrecognizable, and then you're dealing with something that you couldn't possibly have planned for, you couldn't possibly have predicted. I'm constantly in and out of these conversations, even with little Amir. He said, but Mum, couldn't they pick better? I said, what's interesting is that people are really good at acting when they know what they're going after. You can know someone for 20 years and realize you don't really know them. But you just got me thinking of your response. I really love your response. So the next question is, how has societal pressures influenced the way that you view or approach motherhood?
I think it's a bit, this is also a bit of a tricky one. I think the way, like I just said previously, society has you thinking that you've got to be in a family household, in terms you've got to have your mum and your dad. If you're not in that kind of household, then you're most probably on benefits, or you're most probably not working. Do you know what I mean? And I just think it puts a lot of pressure on the household, because obviously as mums, we try to do the best that we can do for our family. Not all relationships work out. Not everyone has the mum and dad in the household. But I think, especially when it comes to the ethnic minorities, that's where you see a lot of broken homes, and I'm just going to be honest. But I think the younger generation now of the ethnic minorities are building that family lifestyle a bit more. So they're coming up with the children and the mum and dad in the household, where I think as my generation, where I'm in the 40s, there are a lot of broken homes. And I think the media and everything focuses a lot on that kind of society when we were growing up, late 30s, 40s, the broken home era. Because if you go back to like my nan and granddad, that was a household there. That was like the foundation of it all. Then you've got obviously my mum, and then you've got my kind of generation terms. But I think, it's just that I think it's a lot to do with media. And then you see when children, like for instance, I've moved out of East London and I'm in Essex. And you see a lot of, well, where my daughter goes to school, they've got a lot of the her friends have got their mum and dad in the household, so they see that as well. So I think them just seeing certain aspects of, they've got their mum and dad, how come I haven't got my mum and dad? And I just think, sorry, I'm rambling a bit too much
No,
now.
you're not rambling. No, don't say that. I love, as women, when we talk, there's always something that comes up. And I think don't underestimate just that conversation. People get to be a fly on the wall in our conversation. Let's just have our conversation. One thing I really found interesting, I've never actually spoke about this topic with you. So I've learned something. Now, when I grew up, so we're similar ages, we're very close in age, I was surrounded by families that were, all of them were married, and I was the only one that came from a single parent household. So it was interesting to say about that generation. So I guess it depends where we're plotted. So I was bullied for coming from a single parent household. It wasn't a common thing. It was like, you're no good. Like if your dad left you, there must have something, kids always like teasing and taunting. And it was quite a prominent aspect of my childhood. So it's quite interesting I know we can both relate to the grandparents, but for me, my journey was slightly different. Whereas people were still married, I felt that as I was coming up, single parenthood tended to become like you either knew someone or someone was a single parent. And now, it happens quite often. So it's quite interesting to hear you share that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it's a bit like the norm now in certain aspects. And people you get a lot of single mothers like, well, I'm the mum and dad. But like I said before, you still like, especially if you have a boy, you need that male role model around.
Yeah, I totally believe in that. You see, for me, I'm a lover of families. I love the fact that God put things in place the way it was for a reason. I do believe that if a mother has the correct support systems, imagine what we could do. Like if we can do this without it, like I was saying to my kids, they were like, my God, I would be floating. Could you imagine what I could do just to know that you come home and you don't have the extra stress of worrying about everything? You know, I always say, like, my kids, they're older and I love them to bits and they pour into me. And I always apologize. I say, it's not that I don't appreciate your support. Sometimes, just as a single mom, it's a case of, I would just love to be able to speak to dad about you. There's things that I love about you or want to celebrate, and just that loneliness in the hemisphere where we sit, the mum and the parent, there's an empty seat. So it's not that you don't appreciate them, is that there's a different dynamics of conversation, right? You know, we need our mums for certain things, but then you have friends and it's different. And, you know, we have our sons, but your partner is different. And I think it's just understanding that caveat of, it would just be nice to have someone to just go, yeah, they're doing great, right? You know, just fall asleep having conversations about or your worries, you know, just taking that weight off your shoulder. Was there something that you were going to say?
No.
Oh, okay. Right. So the next question is, what role has the community played in your journey, whether it's been a source of strength or something you've struggled to find? So you know that kind of phrase, it takes a village to raise a child. Have you felt like you had that? Or
I don't feel like I had that. Not when I was at my lowest, I'm talking, but I'm talking about once I've had the children, I've got my family, I've got my ex's family, and I feel like they have both sides have been there to help to support with the children. Even if it was like, oh, I've got a little part-time job, could someone watch the children for me? Or can you do me a favor? Can you pick up the children from school for me because I'm running late? And right, you know what? They're getting on my nerves. I'm sending them to you for the weekend. That, like, you need a break. As a mother, you need a break.
Yes.
You need a break, and for your own mental health, you need a break at times. So I think that has been a blessing for me to know that I've got that. And they know they can go to certain family members if they want. I don't need that. I don't need to be there for them to go here or go there. Oh, can I go? Yeah, you go on. Oh, can you come? You don't need me to come. It's your family. Go on. So I think, I've had the support system.
That's nice.
Yeah, for my children. Yeah,
that's really nice, and it makes a big difference. So you can breathe, catch your breath, but more importantly, recharge, like you said, for your mental health. I think that's so important. All right, next question I have here is, how do you cope with the guilt or doubts that often come up in motherhood? We were just talking about that, actually.
Do you know what? I actually think of myself in this terms of this point. I'm just like, you know what? If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. If I don't want to do it, I'm not going to do it. And sometimes you do feel good, like, oh, like if my daughter says, oh, or my son, oh, can I go here, or can I do this, or can I do that? I'm like, no, and I'm thinking, I feel a bit bad because maybe their friends would go. I'm like, no, I'm the mother here, so I'm putting things in play. So I don't really feel guilty as such. I do feel a bit upset. I'm thinking, oh, should I give them that chance or anything? But like it goes back to again to instincts, or obviously I'll give them a chance to fly the nest a bit. But if I feel like no, this is not the right space or this is not the right time, yeah, it's just not happening.
Like that. I like it. Like, you free yourself from that pressure, but you know you still sense and have that feeling. But you're like, I'm mum. I do need to insert some authority here. And it's funny. I was talking to a girlfriend about that. Like, when we were younger, there was no explanation. No was no. Like, there wasn't any like,
no,
oh, you know,
and that was it.
Yeah, basically. and it's funny. We were saying, like, it's for our generation. It was like one end of the Richter scale in our childhood. So we went to the other end of the Richter scale. And it's about striking a balance in that we over explain now. I know my parenting has evolved. Like, I was terrible, no boundaries, like it was terrible. And my children just were entitled to so much and always felt they could like have a say and aspects. And, you know, it took a while for me, like when they were very little, not so much now, but I loved what you're saying, just saying no. Like, you getting to call the shots. There's things that you know, you don't have to justify or explain it, but you know, you're still open to talk. Because I know that there were parts where you're like, I wish I understood. It's just like, no, you're a child. But and then you're just flat. But no, I totally get what you're saying. It's really nice.
But I think it's also giving them, it's a bit of a hard one because obviously you still want to give them
in context, exactly.
Yeah.
Giving them that space to talk. Because like that's what I was saying, that there's this crippling feeling in some aspects of childhood, in that it was just no, or it was just hard. And you're like, I don't know what that means, or I don't even know what that is, but no one really wants to fill in those gaps. But I think it really comes from just having, how do I say, having that open line of communication, so that child can come back and say, do you mind?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I know that when we, and it's not just mums, and again, they went through their own pressures. There were things that we weren't aware of, but I guess it was just the wider, it was just like, you're a child and that's it. So everyone was just like, you're a child, that's it. And it's like, I don't understand anything because I'm the child, but I don't understand because no one's giving me answers. But I think communication is key, being able to go back and answer questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So the next question is, what do you wish people understood about you? I'm sorry, what do you wish people understood about the emotional labor that goes into being a mother?
They just need to understand that we are our own individuals. So just because we're a mother, it doesn't mean that we must be on autopilot all the time. We've got to take some time out for ourselves. We've got to be able to shut off and be like, I need a break. I don't want to answer your questions. I just want to sit here in peace and just be with myself. I don't have to always be like to your beck and call. And I think people think also as a mother, it's just like, oh, she can't be wearing that. She shouldn't be doing that. She definitely shouldn't be doing that. At the end of the day, I'm a grown woman, number one. Number two, when it comes to my children, as long as my children are, why are you laughing?
You're really making this hard for me. No, but
I'm a grown woman.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean.
Yeah,
and I think that's about us owning our space as women. It's about identity. Going back to your previous questions, right? Is like, we're not just a mum. We have dreams. You know, there's a little girl inside of us that wants to, you know, surrender and be taken care of. You know, we don't always want to be the protector, the provider, you know, the go-getter. Sometimes we want to rest. Sometimes we want to recharge. Sometimes we want to be playful. Sometimes we want to be loved on. So there's so many different characters inside of us.
Yeah, yeah.
But I love that. I love what you're saying. I'm just struggling. I'm just like, rub it and just hold on. And then you're like, what's wrong? But you know what I love about this conversation is that anyone listening to this, that message, I think there's been an intrinsic message through our conversation that I love, is intuition. You've touched on that. Knowing that, what are my support systems, but more importantly, like, I'm a person too. So I feel, I need to drink, I need to eat, like, I have feelings. And I love that, is that it's a very liberating message that you have around mums at the moment. It's beautiful. Yeah. So the next question I have is, what legacy do you hope to leave behind for your children?
I want them to know that mum was the ultimate protector, the ultimate provider, and the ultimate. I won't necessarily say fighter, but I would say our fighter. No, I just want them to know that whatever they put their mind to, do not be deterred by anyone telling you that you can't do it. And like, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, for instance, say if my daughter wanted to be a bricklayer, for instance. Oh, you can't do that. That's a man's job. No, I'm going to be a bricklayer and I'm going to come back and build your house. How about that? So just letting them know that do not be deterred by anyone's comments or anything. Just make sure you keep on following your dream, your aspect, and be the most that you can. Bring as much love as you can into the world. Be there for other people, and that will come back to you tenfold. So yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that. That is beautiful. That is really nice. I love that. That's beautiful. And you're demonstrating that, you know, hearing the stories that you've had to overcome, the experiences, you had to overcome. you're demonstrating that to them. You're not just saying it to them. They've seen what you've done. You've always been a go-getter. You've never quit. You always get up, back up, and do it again. So
Yeah, I try.
no, you do. You're definitely a fighter. Now, the next question. It's so funny actually speaking to you because I've known you for so long. Like as you're talking, things fire up. I'm like, this is serious. I can't laugh right. Right. So the next question I have is, how has motherhood transformed your relationships, whether it be with your partner, friends, and family? I really like this question because I'm a person that believes that our children are gifts and they often heal a lot in us without us realizing. So I really like this question, like how has motherhood transformed your relationships? Is there any relationship that you feel has been impacted, be that negatively or positively? Like how has it transformed?
I think with some friends who never had children,
Mhm.
like when it was time to do things like, oh, let's go here, let's go there. No, I got the children. Oh, you're always with your children. And I'm like, because I'm a mother. And I know that obviously I can put certain things to the back burner and I could go out if I wanted to, but that's not my priority going out. My priority was making sure that I'm at home and looking after the nest. So with certain friends, that kind of, and I think a negative but positive. When I had when the children were really young, I remember this conversation really, really vividly. There was a time when me and my ex got into a bit of a disagreement, and he's one of the things he did say to me. He was like, "Oh, it's always about the children. That's all you ever care about is the children." And I thought, "Wow, are you jealous of your children?" And that's the only thing that could come to mind. You're jealous of the relationship that has obviously when we were together, it was just me and you. But now we have children and we have to provide for the children. And I think that made me wake up even more and think, wow, I've got to make sure that my children are right. I've got to make sure that I instill certain things into them because being jealous of a child, that's quite deep. And as I've spoken to other friends, some of them have actually said, oh, yeah, my ex is jealous of my child or my partner's jealous of my child. He's always telling me, oh, why is it always about the child? Why can't we do things? I'm like, you can do things, but make sure your child's or your children are catered for first. So I don't see anything wrong with that. So that was a bit of a negative as well. But yeah, I just get on with it, if I'm honest. I just
Yeah,
get
but
on with
that's
it.
actually very common. Like that, it does happen, and I think I really love. You see it a lot on social media or hear people when they discuss relationships. I think it's so important to continue dating your partner in parenthood. I do think that we can get lost,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
and again, I don't want to say this in a way. It's not pointing fingers. I think the world does a good job at victim blaming. You're always blaming the victim. You're victim blaming, victim shaming. That's not where I'm going. I think this goes for both mother and father. Date each other throughout because otherwise, if you always just feel like I'm the breadwinner, she's taking care of the kids, she gets lost. She loses who she is.
Oh,
Just
absolutely. I definitely
pouring
agree.
in. And we want that, like take us out, take it like book a meal, book a surprise, vice versa. I think men need surprises sometimes as well. But I
Yeah.
think it's so important because parenthood can really focus all the attention on children, and then before you know it, you've drifted apart. And
Yeah.
they always say, when a woman's pregnant, going through it, or giving birth, those are the times where the relationship's really challenged. But it's for
Mm.
you to lean in together and really be there. So if a man's just saying it's always about the kids, it's less about that. Let's have a different conversation, like you said. Let's make
Mm.
sure our children are stable, so I don't have to worry, and let's go out.
Mm.
Like, why would I not want to go out and play around,
Yeah. Yeah.
have fun? Like, that's what the more you do that, the more you become in love on your children. They're going to be like, oh, you two stop it. They love all that, really,
Yeah.
as sappy as it sounds, it's needed. But I love families. I love marriages, providing it's healthy and happy. You'll have your ups and downs, but just this conversation with you is just making me think about a few points. But I love the way you explained it. And it is sometimes having children can have a massive strain on the relationship. And sometimes if that pet person isn't emotionally intelligent, they don't want to hear work around. They just like, leave the kids. They want you to leave the kids. They want you to forget about it and just focus on them. So thanks for sharing that. Next question. What is the most unexpected lesson that you've learned from your children?
Sometimes when you feel, example me, feel that you're doing the right thing for your children, it's not always the right thing. There's been times with one of my children where I thought I was doing the right thing and saying the right thing, but it's taken her to like get her voice and be like, no, mum, you weren't doing the right thing for me. You wasn't there when I needed you to do certain aspects for me. And hard as it may be, I've had to take that on board, because obviously I would prefer them to have their voice and say things instead of me just always saying, no, but I'm the mother. You should listen to me. They still have the voice. They still have a voice and they still need to be heard. So I think, that's a hard one. That's a hard one for me
to
explain.
That's a massive lesson. Just being able to listen to them also. I really like that. And it's nice that you give them that chain of communication so they feel that they can actually share that opinion so we can learn at that time. So that's cool.
I think sometimes they do push the boundaries, because I think where they're grown, well, not the youngest one, but the others are grown, they think they can diverge into a bit more of a stronger conversation. Yes, you're an adult, you can talk, but I think sometimes you need to kind of slow the brakes. I think sometimes you go, beyond that.
I guess it's always about the approach, isn't it? It's not what we're saying, it's how we're saying it. So let's have conversations, but let's keep it respectful. And I think that there's a time where, when people say you can't be friends with your children, or people say you are friends, I think there's a time. I think when they're young, they don't really need you to be their friend. They need you to be their parent. And I think as they get older, you are raising your friends. Like, my two elders, a boy and a girl, I cherish being able to talk to them as friends. Like I literally, I feel like I'm a teenager. I'm like, come talk, this happened to me, what do you think? And my son's like, there's certain things I don't want to know, mum. Like, you better talk to the hair about that. So I think it's beautiful, but I guess it's a time and space when that comes out. And I think that's what's really important. And that will vary from child to child. Not every child wants to have that in that same way. And it's about learning each other and building that relationship. But I really love the way you've actually phrased it in that ability to learn, because I think when our children come into our lives, they definitely come to teach us. Children are not a blank canvas. As much as we have things to cultivate in them, not so much just teach them, because we see them in a different light. We're constantly watching them, focusing on them, seeing their talents, being wowed by them. Oh my God, like, you're mine. I created this. It's amazing. But I guess society, the hardship for mums is the society we're raising these kids in pretty much teaches young people to overstand with their parents. And I guess that's the caveat of challenge for parents. I'm a traditionalist. I do love that your parents are your parents. There isn't this age where you outgrow them. There's this society thing where you get to 18, we leave, and that's it, and I do what I want. I do love family, and I think there's something so powerful when we actually understand family. If we're just raising to be individuals versus raising to plant in our forests, there's a longevity there that will last for generations. And I don't know if you agree on this. I remember growing up and looking at families, and I've said to myself over and over again, I want to be like that. I want it to be that there's things handed down, heirlooms, traditions, because there's something so sacred and priceless that when you come from a family, a lot of us are trying to, find our wings, spread our wings and fly away. But when we really understand the power that we have in family, we start to operate differently. And if we look at our parents as the president and the heads of that institute, and we are the members and the body, if we can just take direction, we're set up as superpowers. We look at all the brands that are powerful around the world, they're families. And there needs to be infrastructure, because when we get a bit messy, I always say to people, when we really realize what we've inherited and we really do it properly, and if our kids can listen because this only works when there's a two-way. They have to be listened and ready to receive. So you know, you're getting me into all kinds of things here. Stop it. But yeah, back to you. So that was a great response. The next question that I have is, if you could change one thing about how society views or supports mothers, what would it be?
I would say stop putting so much pressure on them. I
Mm.
think they're labeled like, as a mother, you should make sure you're at home to pick up your children. You're not saying that you shouldn't be, but at the end of the day, not all mums have that. They are out working. They have a lot, obviously, have a nanny, have a friend or family to collect the child. But I think this is, as a mother, you should be doing this. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be there. As long as we're providing, we're their support system, and then we're a network and building together, I don't feel that there's any part of society that should be judging a mother's role. You don't know what they've been through previously in order to do what they're doing now. So, like, I know of parents, mothers, that there's like 3, 4 children. Dad's not about, but mum is still working. Mum still can make sure the children are clean, fed, go to school, back home in order to pick up their kids for school. But then will go and work in the evening, pay someone out of their money that they're working from to go and make sure they're providing for their children. So I think as society as a whole, stop putting so much pressure on the parent, on the mum.
I love that you said that. You know, it's so touching. There's so many things that are coming up for me right now hearing your response. I'm just going to mention one thing. As a mother, there's often this involuntary judgment. Oh, you're a good mum because you do this. Like your children don't have to, you know, you give your child everything they ask for. Or you're a good mum because you know you've made them money overnight. But what if the mother can't read or write? What if she doesn't speak English? What if the best she could do is just put a meal on the table? So I love the fact that these societal judgments and projections is actually quite hurtful, because it's sort of like a circus. You have to somersault, then the other person has to somersault, do a backflip, then the other person has to somersault, do a backflip, and then it's like, where do we draw the line? Just saying, you know, she's doing her best. And
Yeah.
given the fact that you don't know nothing about her journey, I'm glad that you highlighted that. You don't know her struggles. Yesterday, dad could have transitioned, dad could have walked out, dad might be the biggest pressure in her life. She also might have a loving, caring, supportive partner. We don't know people enough to keep throwing all these judgments out and putting all these expectations. And I think I really love the fact that you touched on that, because I think there is so much pressure. So much pressure. You must be doing this by that time. If you know, if they've got ideas, you must support all the ideas of the kids. What if she doesn't even have time to grab a glass of water? She must have this in place. But actually, did you ask? This young lady might have become a single mum, might be petrified about life. She might be a natural introvert, and now she's just thrown into the lion's den and she's just trying to breathe. So sometimes instead of having all these expectations for mums, why don't we just check in and say, is there something I could do to help? I love that you shared that. Thank you. Really important. It's quite sad, really, and touching. So the next question is, what's the most misunderstood part of the journey of motherhood?
Oh, that's a tricky one.
What comes up first?
What just flew into my mind was kind of like the other question, that all mums should have things in play in terms of you should know by this time. All right, if you're a mother, you should know, oh, you don't know that, oh, by this time they should be doing that, this time they should be doing this. Every child is different, and every mother works different in the way they bringing up their children. So I think just maybe that notion of you're not aware and you don't know certain things about motherhood. Although you're a mother, you should know aspects. Everyone who is a mother isn't a mother out of choice. And I say that because they could have been in a situation where abuse or something that happened, but due to their past traumas, they don't want to go down the route of getting rid of the child. So they are working every day to make sure that their child's cared for and that they can kind of understand the whole journey of motherhood. So yeah.
That's so touching. That's so true. Do you know, I love that. I shared a post on social media, and there's a audio on it. It's called Salute Motherhood. I've never actually come across that audio, but it was just a song you could pick. I just put motherhood and it came up, and it said exactly what you said. So for some mothers it was a choice, but for some mothers it came unexpected. And the
Yeah.
reality is we all arrive at the door of motherhood differently. I
Mm.
remember Lachey, when she was a teenager, she went away to a retreat of 200 children from around the world, and they were sharing their stories. And there's this one young lady, unfortunately, her father had sexually abused her. He went away, and when he came out, he persisted, and she ended up conceiving, but she kept the child because she just didn't believe in abortion. And she
Mm.
talks about how this child was a gift to her and how she was able to heal and move forward. So motherhood is not like we just stand there and it's like, oh, we download all of the things, all the knowing everything. Actually, we go through our own challenges in motherhood. We go through our own silent battles, may I add. So every person we meet in life is fighting a silent battle. So we must learn to be kinder to each other. And
Mm.
sometimes we're more compassionate to someone that doesn't know how to, write a CV or doesn't know how to pick clothes, to someone that's actually dealing with life. We're raising up
Yeah.
a human being, sometimes several human beings. And when you think about that, it's like you go to work and you leave work at work. But what if you just carry that around with you everywhere and you've been told, you know what? Forget about you being an employee. Today you're CEO, and he walks out the door. You're like, I think that's the reality. So sometimes, it wasn't a choice. It wasn't always a choice. CEO decided to walk out, and you have to run the show. And sometimes it's not going to look good. Sometimes it's going to look different for different people. But I think we need to learn to be a bit kinder. But I love your response. Absolutely beautiful. Really, really nice. Next one. How has motherhood changed your perspective on yourself, your goals, and life in general?
Mm. Sometimes I doubt myself and I feel like I'm not good enough, and that can kind of be a bit of a pressure on me because I feel like if I'm not good enough, then what am I doing all this for?
Mm.
Um, Obviously I'm working, but then I just think to myself, yeah, but you shouldn't be working for someone else. You should be working for yourself. So then sometimes I just think, oh, yeah, maybe things should have been different. But I'm like, you can't change it, so you got to get on with it. And I think, mm, mm, it's just made me see things in a different light, to be honest. It's just made me think to myself, you know what? You're a mother. Look, like you can't look where your children are. Your kids are at a place where they are doing their stuff. Why are you not doing yours? Like, that's what I've got to think to myself. Why are you not doing yours? But look where your children are. You've helped put everything in motion for your children. Start putting that same motion in place for yourself.
I love what you're saying. The thing, and I'm just going to be honest, I want to commend you for being so raw and open. Like, obviously, I know you, and you're just sharing so much. I wasn't expecting to just go that deep, and I really thank you for that, because I know that someone's going to get so much, how can I say, inspiration from listening to your story, because I'm inspired. Like I think I'm going to get to know you in a different light here. But what I love about what you said is sometimes we don't feel good enough. You know, just processing that, to hear everyone can relate in a time in their life when they didn't feel good enough for something at some level. But one thing I want to say that you said is that if you can do it for your children, why can't you do it for you? So I was like nodding my head, and then you said that. I was like, no, I don't agree with that. You are the Tamile in their life, but who was the Tamile for you? And I think
Mm.
sometimes we need to be fair with ourselves, is that you said it at the start of our conversation, is that you're always the one that people go to solve their problems, but often they don't come back and help you with things. And
Mm.
I think it's a similar thing for women, in that the dining table is overlooked until it's dinner time. Other than that, it's
Mm.
just invisible in the house. So I think don't be so hard on yourself. Sometimes be a little bit kinder. So if you are the Tamile to them that they get to call mummy, you know, they get to call you mummy, but you're their superhero, who is that for you? And I think if we can be honest that it's not saying that other people don't help all the time. There's aspects of it in context. Sometimes even mothers, we don't want to ask. So it's not always that people can't help. Sometimes we don't want to ask. But the reality is if we don't have what we are to others, it's also unfair to judge that we are not at the same place that others are. Because I know you're on their case. You'll go and get them. You pick them up. You'll shake it out of them. You'll make it happen. You'll make the call. But if we don't have that, is it really fair to judge yourself with the same premise? Now, don't get me wrong. Out of respect for what you're saying, I love what you're saying because you're just being honest. You're saying that actually sometimes I don't feel good enough. But I just feel that the judgment of you should be X, you're a powerhouse with your kids. Like you don't mess around. But you've got that level of enthusiasm, get up and go, someone getting you out of the bed, waking you up. Is it fair to judge that? Is it really fair?
Absolutely not. But you know when you have that instilled, it's like it's instilled in yourself.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
You've grown up, you've seen certain things from your own parents, and you're like, you know what? I'm not judging because I know at the end of the day, what you done, it worked.
Yeah,
but I want to make sure I go via a different path, but I still got that instilled as well. And I think also when it comes to even like for my personal life in terms of dating, from previous relationships, I know what I'm not saying I'm looking for anyone to be a father to my children, but I need someone that's a role model. So when they're alongside me, my children see that I'm like, yeah, that's a role model that I'm happy to be around, or I'm happy that my mum's around because they're vibing off each other. They're bringing the best out of each other. So even with that, it's like I'm finding it hard to date. No, I'm not finding it hard to date, but I find it hard to kind of trust because I think to myself, you could do one thing wrong, you could sneeze wrong, like, oh no.
I just want to look at the camera when you're talking. Do you know what? It's so interesting because we have changed. You know, once upon a time, you know, minus our experiences, remember our experiences shape us. So our new choices of our partner changes back to, you know, what we said before, like,
yeah,
what would you do differently? And it's like, yeah, the partner. So now it's like, that's what's going on. And it's so interesting because a lot of people like that. I don't like many people. Like I can speak to 1,000 people, and you know, we've had these conversations. I don't want to get into this, so we're just going to talk for hours. But you're looking, and it's nothing about them. It's more about us learning to actually honor ourselves and trust that actually we're getting to a point in our lives where we're finally giving ourselves permission to have a choice. You know,
yeah.
sometimes we just settle, like we just okay. When's
I
the
think
next
that is the problem where as mothers we just think like let's just settle, let's just get on with it and let's just see how things go. Whereas obviously my children are grown, I'm grown, and no, I'm not settling. And people are like, oh yeah, but you're so fussy. I will continue to be fussy until I find the right one for me who fulfills what I need.
Oh, and they're there. And you know, this is something that when I was younger, I didn't understand. They really are there. And it's our lack of giving ourselves permission to dream means that our dream arrives half filtered because we're not saying it. We're too scared to say, well, can I ask for that? You know, will that be okay? How long will I wait? Like I've been waiting for a while. But there are some beautiful men. And even when you've got children, there are some beautiful men who haven't had children and they would love to be with someone that has children. And you know, there's that other thing where people normally say, if you've got children, it'd be hard to find someone. The nice thing is you'll find a maturer man when you've got children versus not. Because a lot of people that are immature don't want to be with a woman that's got children.
Yeah, yeah.
Really
I've heard men say that. Say, oh well, you've got how many kids? Oh, good luck trying to find a man. I'm like, well, obviously ain't you, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really glad that you touched on that. It's such a, I think it's such an important aspect of motherhood, especially if you've come out of a relationship, you've got children, you know, younger children, older children. And I meet a lot of mums that have a lot of fear around, like, will I ever find a partner? Will a partner like me? And especially with age, you know, society, another thing going back to societal pressures is that, you know, when a woman reaches her peak, she's less desirable. And you got to say, like, according to who? Because those ones I'm not interested in. You know, the reality is, if what I have learned about the female journey, at least my journey and people I connect with, is the more we're honest with each other or ourselves, the more what we want to experience begins to show up. And I really love that. I think there's a philosophy around it, because at times when we're less sure, less certain, less giving ourselves permission, we just take anything. But as we're like, actually, this is what I really enjoy, and you find that people starting to vibe, and you go, I like his socks, I like his trousers, you know, I like his socks, trousers, his mindset, I like his socks, trousers, mindset. You sort of get closer and closer. And I love playing that game of, let's see how much begins to shift the more I begin to allow myself to call it in. But sometimes we don't ask, as we believe we can't have it. And that's the where I am now, not so much where I was before. And it's really, really nice. So we're going to go into a few trivia questions. I've got 4 questions around this, which is just to lighten up the mood, because I know we've been talking about some deep things. But thank you. I've really enjoyed our conversation. You know, next time I'll be like, oh my God, let's talk about that a bit more. So, question 1 in the trivia section is, if your child, if your child was gonna, right? You know, it's funny interviewing someone you know, because like you just start. So, if your child was going to write a book about you, what would the title be?
All right. So I think with my son, it might just be like rolling eyes, like every eye, like. Because every time when I'm going through, I'm like, guess what? And I try and crack a joke, like, whatever, mum. Like, you really think you're funny. I can see the smirk coming through. So stop. With my second boy, she might probably be something along the line of, Mum, you don't know it all. Something along them lines, because you think you know it all, don't you? You don't know it all. Because actually, I'm like, all right. And then the last one would most probably be something like twin, because she thinks I don't know her. Me and her are 7 days apart. You are me, and I am you. So, so yeah, it would be something like twin, because she thinks she can run the games. I'm thinking,
love that. Roll your eyes. Think you know it all, and twin. I love it. You are me, and I am you. That's brilliant. You've got to tell them. It's fantastic. Oh, boy, that's funny. So the next question I have is, what's the funniest mum fail moment that you've experienced?
What's the funniest? Oh wow, I can't even think of it. I do so much stupid things.
Like running back, you know, after summer holidays, taking them back to school on the day that it hasn't opened yet because you're so desperate to get them back.
I wouldn't say that's funny, because I've done that before when I lived at the area. I lived about an hour and 20 minutes out of the area, and I wasn't driving at the time. And it was inset day, and me and the children went on the bus. And then when I got to the school, I was like, oh, we're a bit early, ain't we? And then the teacher came out and said, oh, there's no school today. Because you live around the corner, you can come out like that. And there's no school today. Yeah, so that definitely was funny.
No teachers there. At least you had teachers there. I would have been like, if this teacher, you're not this taken, they'll be quiet.
Yeah, so that was annoying. But I can't think of anything.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So the next one is, what is your go-to hideout spot when you need a break? Is there anywhere, like, do you have a mum's cave at home, or do you hide in the toilet?
I normally go into the bathroom. I put a cap full of Dettol in my bath, my antiseptic. I put my bubble bath in. I dim the lights, but I get a little pot where I put my phone at the end of the bath, and I close the door and I lock it.
Oh, why did you have to talk about the bubble bath? That's it. Yeah, that's it for me. And my
And that is
candles.
my sanctuary. And
Yeah.
it's like obviously because I have my toilet is in my bath and they're knocking on the door. Mom, I need to go to the toilet.
Wait.
Yeah, 5 more minutes.
Or it's like, come in, but don't turn the lights on. Don't mess up the ambience. Gather all your bubbles. Oh, brilliant. I love that. What I really love about motherhood is the simple things. It's just those simple.
That's it.
It's
The
just
minor thing. That's like some people be like, oh, really? Well, I go and get pampered. Yeah, I'm getting pampered.
So, this is quite funny. So, what's the strangest thing that you've ever found in the pockets of in either your child's pockets when they were at school or in their backpack?
I think one of the not necessarily strange thing, but one time I couldn't find my house keys, and we was all meant to go out.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't go out because couldn't find our keys, and then it's not until the next day when I was looking through one of my children's bags, oh, the house keys were there. So I'm just thinking, say if I didn't look for that bag, it would have been another 2 days in the house. And it was 6 weeks holiday.
So funny. Oh, it's a shame you didn't get to go, but everything happens for a reason. You never know.
That's it.
That's so funny though. Were you annoyed or were you okay? Did you laugh about it?
Oh, I was annoyed. I was annoyed.
So we're on to the home straight now. We've got 8 questions. So this is the closing question. So we're just going to ask some things around the community. So this question is, if our community of listeners could support you in 3 transformative ways, what would you ask for? So if this audio or video can land on the lap of someone that you've always wanted to meet, someone you always wanted to connect with, what are these 3 things that you would love to ask for? It could be anything. It could be personal, it could be business. I know you've got some amazing business ideas. You're writing a book as well.
Yep, I am writing a book and I'm starting up my own clothing line. But I'm starting up with accessories. So I'd like to have some kind of fashion mentor, someone that could guide me in the right direction, because obviously always think we know it all, but obviously I would like someone who's already in the field, someone who's going through that transition. Someone just guidance, to be honest. When it comes to meeting certain people, I just think if you're meant to be in my life, you'll be in my life. I'll meet you on my journey. So I wouldn't say, oh, I'd like to meet. Yeah, obviously I'd like to meet certain people, but I won't say it out loud. But if you're on my journey and on my path, I will meet you along the way, and that's how we'll connect and make.
So you said mentor, 2 more.
Asking. I don't know.
In the fashion industry, then what else?
I think a life coach would be great. And I don't know, you throw me off that. I don't know.
As mums, we don't always get to ask, but if I said it was for the kids, you'd be like,
yeah. Just someone, for me personally, someone who I can rely on and be someone that will be by my side, and that we can both grow and build an empire together.
Oh, okay, you take it into dating.
Okay, girlfriend. I am. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. And so can people contact you on social media for like the fashion?
I am currently setting up my Instagram, but it is live. But obviously, I'm not at the point of replying directly all the time to people. But you will see me do flash up. So it's Silent Millionaire 01 for Instagram.
Excellent. And is it okay for them to reach out to you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn, yes, but I can't remember my LinkedIn details at the moment. But I will get it to you.
We'll put that together. When it circulates, they can get in touch with us and we can connect you.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for asking those 3 things. So the next question is, what's one way that you plan to pay it forward in the lives of a complete stranger or someone that you know as a result of this conversation today? Do you remember that movie, Pay It Forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just having that conversation with others that are going through certain aspects of motherhood, but not
Mm.
necessarily motherhood, but you know when someone's struggling and you can kind
Yeah.
of, like, again, you can kind of see it in their eyes, or you can see, I think it's just asking someone, are you okay? Is there anything I can do to help you? Just being a
Mm.
support system for someone that may not necessarily need it, but wants it.
Yes. No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Absolute sense. Thank you. So, how do you hope sharing your story on this platform might impact others?
Everyone's going through their own journey, and what I've been through in terms of the loss of children and having children. Someone may have like doubts like, oh, I'm never going to be a mother, or this ain't going to happen for me. And knowing that your time will come. So don't always have that self-doubt like, oh, things ain't going my way. Just have that faith that your time is coming.
I
So
love
yeah, just have
that.
faith.
That's
And
beautiful. Like a message of hope.
yeah,
That is actually, having one miscarriage or losing one child is hard enough, and you might feel like you're going to give up. So I really love that. A message of hope.
yeah,
Really nice.
yeah.
Thank you. What are you proud? Tell me what you're proud of yourself for.
For my children, that I've got them to a place where they are on their journey and they're fulfilling their journey. So I've helped instill what I think that they need to get to a certain point. They've taken on my views, but they're also following their own views. So it's not just, oh, mum said I should do this, so I'm doing this. No, you've taken a bit of mine and yours and you're infused it together and you're working and getting to your destination. And that makes me proud.
Yeah, that's so nice. Beautiful. That's really nice. I can't stop smiling. um, what do you want to say sorry to yourself for?
Sorry for not listening to your instincts in terms of when you knew something wasn't right, you just thought you'd go with the flow just to block everything out and just keep on moving, or not speaking up in certain aspects of certain things. Yeah, just not speaking up. Just not speaking up, I would say. Certain times when I felt like if I said something, would there have been a different outcome? And I think sometimes in that aspect, that hurt me more because I didn't speak up. And then as I'm growing up, I'm thinking, well, if I did, would this have happened or would this have happened? So, yeah.
Do you want to say sorry to yourself for that?
Yeah.
This question is actually a follow up from the previous one. So, what do you have to forgive yourself for? So, although we might say sorry, it doesn't mean we've really forgiven ourselves. So what are some of those parts that you maybe want to start forgiving yourself for as a result of this conversation?
I think at times I could have given myself a lot more love. A lot more love. I could have understood, should have, I wouldn't say understood. Yeah, understood that I don't have to be there for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Be there for myself as well. Um, Follow your dreams. And yeah.
Nice. So that's really nice. Next question is, what do you have to thank yourself for?
I would say thank myself for being the person that I've become. I think through a lot of heartache, a lot of pain, a lot of self-doubt, I've built myself up and I've got to a point where I've got that strength, I've got that resilience, I've got that determination that I'm not going to fail. I'm going to get to where I want to get to and I'm going to be happy along the way. So I've got to thank myself that I've got the strength of many men that some don't have.
Oh,
Mm.
that's really nice that you acknowledge yourself for that. Do you often do that? You acknowledge yourself?
Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes I think that. no, you got this. You can do that. Or yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
right. This is the final question, actually. So, what are you willing to let go of and to heal from as a result of today's conversation? So, I always say to guests, this question is not necessarily something you have to answer verbally. You might want to do that in your personally offline. But if you feel comfortable to share, go ahead and share it. I can repeat the question if you want, or if you know it.
Mhm.
Should I repeat it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what are you willing to let go of and to heal from as a result of this conversation today?
I think let go of any past trauma that I kind of still held on to with, like I said before, growing up, I want my children to grow up in a two-family household. And I think sometimes I still have that kind of, I wouldn't say anger because I've kind of grown through it, but that kind of like that letdown in terms of people should have been fighting more in order to make sure the family stayed together. So I think letting go of that and knowing that my children are fine, I'm fine, and moving on.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. I actually can't thank you enough for this interaction. I knew it was going to be amazing, but I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
While the fact that you kept on making me laugh and I'm supposed to be serious, I've really enjoyed this conversation. It was really the depth that you shared. I can't commend you enough. You know, I know that there's going to be someone's life that's going to change as a result of listening to this, and I want to thank you. You know, this platform is predominantly based on us sharing our stories, and you've gone deep and you've revealed so much. And I really love the core message that you've shared. So thank you for that. So as we come to a close, there's a message for our listeners. Let's turn words into actions. If you're moved by today's story, think about how you can offer some support, no matter how big or small. Whether it's a thought of some kind words that you want to share, whether it's some resources, you know, maybe it's some love, you know, reach out, you know, what it is, or, you know, or connecting with our guests. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what it is, whatever you feel you would like to come forward and do, please reach out to our guests directly or via the platform. Let's build a community that uplifts and empowers. Okay, so thank you so much for tuning in to the Unheard Cries of a Mother podcast. Your stories matter, and together we can create ripple effects of understanding, support, and transformation. If today's conversation resonated with you, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And you know, share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, as mothers, we're stronger together. Until next time, let's keep lifting each other up and turning unheard cries into powerful voices. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.